Welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. It's episode 100. 100 episodes in. I can't believe it. You know, if you told me that I would get to 100 when I started this, you know, we started literally, I remember the first episode I ever recorded. It was in my bedroom with nothing. I had, you know, literally nothing. I had just a computer, my friends, and that was literally it. And we're now here 100 episodes in. I've got like, you know, one of the biggest up and coming artists, in my opinion, literally in hip hop right now, the one and only LaRussell. I used to think it was LaRussell because, you know, that's what happens when you're Australian. You just read words and you're like, but then it's obviously LaRussell. If you haven't seen him, I think you've been living literally under a rock. But man, you've had an amazing 2021, already an amazing 2022. And I appreciate you coming on the show. It's pretty amazing 100th episode as far as I'm concerned.
Man, incredible. You've done 100. That's a lot of shots, man. That's a lot of shots. You've gotten so into it that you got foam on your walls.
Yeah, literally.
Beautiful.
I remember when I was setting this up, I think my family was like, I don't think he'll do it. And now I've done it. And I was buying the foam. I put it all up myself. I've got like the whole couch, the setup. So yeah, well, the 100th hasn't finished yet. So, you know, it's all on you. You got to make sure that 100th finishes well.
100?
Yeah.
Wow, look at the universe.
But I mean, how are you doing? Because like, I feel like, you know, your past 12 months have kind of been whirlwind. Like it feels like a meteoric rise for you.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I've been doing horrible. No. No, it's been an interesting journey, man. Life is lifing.
It really is. And, you know, it's kind of crazy because I look at you and I'm like, damn, it's all you need is a moment. There's just this moment where like everyone's like, oh shit. And you've been doing this for a long time. Like this isn't your first rodeo. It's not like you started rapping last year and then it just happened. Like you've been doing this for a long time. And then all the skills that you built, everything that you've been working on, it just came to that apex of like, now everyone's like, oh, everyone wants a piece of me.
Right. No, it's crazy. It's a very surreal thing to feel. You know, like it's one of those things that you can only know through experience. Like you can never prepare for it and you can never know until you experience it and all it is. It's a very I feel like this is one of the most pivotal moments in my life so far. It's a very grand time.
Yeah. And literally everyone's talking about you. Like that's the weird part to me is like you don't like.
How'd you find it? You're in Australia.
Well, that's the thing. Like I'm into this, right? So I keep my ear to the ground. Hopefully I'm sure there's so many people that I miss because like there's so many artists in the world, but like literally there's just this vibe around you. And when I listen to your music, it's like there's something different to what you see ordinarily. And what I mean is like, it feels to me in a weird way, and there's no beat you can't hit. That's the most interesting thing to me is like, you do so many different beats and I'm like, I don't think that many artists could do it. You do these acoustics, you do these pianos, you don't have heavy drums on every beat. Like you do so many interesting things. And I'm like, well, the skill set is clearly there. Right?
Yeah. Man, it's funny. I was just having a conversation today. And we were talking about Drake and why he's like the greatest. You know, it's like, bro, when we think of greats, like to me, Drake is as great as Michael Jackson when it comes to like making music, you know? And yeah, Yaya was like, man, bro, the only person I think is close to Drake is you. And I was like, man, what a moment, you feel me? Because it's like you as you're navigating this shit as a career, like you never think that you'll be mentioned with like the greats or whatever. You kind of just do it hobbyish for a long time. And then when you get to that point, like, you know, I'm sure John Morant feels like crazy to be mentioned with the Currys and shit like that. You know, it's wild.
Yeah, it's because it's like, I say it's weird because to me, Drake is almost bigger than his music in a weird way. Like
Right?
it's so strange because like he is an amazing artist and he does it all. Like you said, he makes catchy songs, he makes pop songs, he has bars, he literally has it all. But like, I still don't think that he does the breadth of like just the raw instrumentals that you do. Like he has some really cool shit that he does, but like your stuff is like super raw. There's something about it that like, and even talking to you, I can already tell like you're just who you are. Like there's no like, it's almost like you don't have a persona. And I know everyone has a persona in a way, and there's like a brand to it all, but like there's just something about the raw nature of like, here's a really simple beat. Here's just the bass level. You don't need these drops. You don't need this like banger. You don't need it to build. It's just like a really nice, simple beat. And you let the lyrics and your delivery take over. And I think that's the most impressive part is like, you don't rely on the beat to make a good track. You actually go like, okay, let me use this and figure out how to make it the best I can do.
Beautiful, man. That's how I've noticed with music, I like everything really stripped down now. Like a lot of my newer stuff is very simple, like just piano or light guitar, light drums. And it's like I feel like I'm at that space in life where I'm kind of really trying to strip everything the fuck down, and it just kind of correlates into the music, which is crazy. Like everything is like interconnected.
When I listened to it For What It's Worth, it like took me back. Like it surprised me because I'm not used to listening to it. I grew up on like East Coast beats. I love heavy drums. Like I love all those traditional hip hop things, but then like having a new sound. And something I also noticed was like you use the same producer for the full album, which I love because it makes it coherent. Like I think a lot of people get stuck in picking, this beat from this person, this beat from this person, but there's no transition in between the albums. And you can definitely notice a path in yours. But like at first it took me back and I was like, I'm going to have to kind of refocus on what I think I love and what I think hip hop is and give this a chance. Normally, if I like 5 years ago, I would have been like, fuck that. Like, no way. So like, it's like also a journey for me as a fan to be like, it's my job to also see if I can come on the journey with you, as opposed to just like, just stick to what I know.
Right. We as fans, we often really I don't know if we do it, but we play a role in hindering the growth of artists, because we don't like, a lot of us don't like new sounds from artists. Like there's only so many artists that I listen to that they try something new and I love it. It's tough terrain to navigate. So it's really dope that you and like all the other fans are so open to listening to hip hop, but with just the piano. Like hip hop was like the breaks and the beats and the flows. So it's like when you remove all those elements and they still, I don't even know if it would be hip hop, at that point.
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I still think it is though, because the elements are still there. Like maybe you're not using a sample. Maybe you don't have scratches in there, which all shit I love. Like DJ Premier is probably my favorite producer of all time. And he does all of that. But like, I think the raw nature of like, having lyricism, having a message, having like, you're talking about your life and what you see is still hip hop. And just because it's delivered with a different sound doesn't mean it's not. And literally, I fall in the same trap. Like Royce da 5'9" is one of my favorite artists of all time. And he has moved away from what I originally loved about him. And it's hard for me because I'm like, I loved you at the beginning when you did Rock City. And I just loved that shit. And then I loved Bad Meets Evil, Hell the Sequel. And then his flow changed. And I'm like, it's hard because I've been watching you for years. And I know, but then if you did the same shit that I heard on the other albums, I'm like, you're not developing. You're not growing, right? I think we're difficult to please, honestly. That's my takeaways. Fans are very difficult to please.
Man, I'm so appreciative. I feel like I have incredible fans. Like bro, I be putting out a bunch of different type of sounding shit. And you know, everyone doesn't love it, but some people do. But I feel like the base, like the core of my fans is like really open and accepted to the shit I drop. Like I'll drop some crazy R&B shit, no raps at all, you know, and it's still getting like that love.
Well, why do you think it is? Why do you think your fans are on the journey with you?
I think they may be like in the same phases of life. I feel like when you with rappers, when we listen to rappers or any artist, when they're able to depict the life that we currently live, you just connect differently. You know, like Scissors Control album, I feel like is a great representation of this. Like you feel instantly connected, like, wow, you one of us. You feel me? So it feels more like a homie than like a artist fan type relationship. It's like, man, I'm just checking in and seeing what this nigga doing. You feel me?
I mean, I don't necessarily say those words, but yeah, I feel you. But like, but you know, it's because I don't know. Do you feel like, and I think part of it is honestly good company. I think, you know, and when I look at you and I look at the brand and I look at, you know, what you're doing, it's very different from a lot of artists, and the things that you're focusing on are different from a lot of artists. So I think people appreciate that a lot, is like you're not falling into a traditional mold of what a rapper is. Like you're just sticking to yourself and doing what you like. Like you're smiley, you laugh a lot, you're happy. And I think there's this sometimes this rapper mentality where it's like, I got to have a mean look on my face. I got to be like,
niggas be screwed up. Yeah, no, it is. It's so interesting too, because it's not just man, it's so much deeper than a persona. You know, like people aren't acting that way. Like they're embodying it. Like they're really trying to be something, you know? Like that shit is it's very interesting. And hip hop has kind of bred that energy though throughout. Like it's always kind of been associated with, like, we don't associate the rock or the pop stars with like the mug and the meme, you know. But you gotta think, like, bruh, back when we had magazines and shit, like niggas was on the covers with dogs, like, you know, like, man, interesting.
well, I love that music. That's the thing. Like,
right? It's the
I love it.
Greatest shit ever.
Gangster rap, it changed my world. I love gangster rap. It is so far from my reality, but there is something about just the imagery and like putting yourself in that position, the braggadocious nature of it. They're telling you how many ways they're better than every other rapper and how many ways they can murder you or rob you, whatever it is. But there's something super impressive and attractive about it that I've always loved.
No, it's so crazy because they call it gangster rap. Like, hey, you know what's funny as fuck about that? It's like there's no black person in the world who says gangster rap, you know? Like it's an interesting thing that has been made of it. Like it's some crazy shit. Right? But we associate it with a specific thing and we love it. Like when I hear gangster rap, like who do you think of first when you hear gangster rap?
Straight away I think Big Pun. Like I think,
wow,
yeah. I love Big Pun. But then I think, like, you know, I think of Ice Cube. I think of like Mobb Deep. Like I like this grimy, gritty shit.
Right.
That's what I think of, is like, but like, I don't know. To me, it's just like they're talking about the world, their world, and what they grew up with.
Right. Their life, which is fucking nuts. You feel me? And man, bro, it's hearing you say gangster rap was like, wow, they call it gangster rap. Like I know that shit, but it's like that's some wild shit.
You know why? It's because it's like the easiest way to describe it. That's like, because when I talk to people and they're like, what type of hip hop do you like? And I'm like, I like the gangster shit.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
But it's just, I don't know, there's just something about it. But what people miss to me is like, okay, that shit is like the entertaining stuff, but there's a deeper level to it all. There's this hidden meaning behind everything that they're talking about. There's this technical element to everything that they do. There are these syllables, there are these rhyme schemes, there are these kind of paragraphs that they put together. And it's like, unless you really listen to it with open ears, you're going to miss it all. I still miss shit. And I've been listening to the same tracks for ages.
Bro, you miss it all. And it's so, you miss it all because we're so disconnected. Like, we don't understand, like, when he says certain shit, it's like, no, this is his real life. You know, like, I love Many Men by 50 Cent, right? You know, you know how much, like, what state you have to be in to make Many Men and live in, you feel me? Like, as consumers, we miss everything. It's like, nah, bro, there's some crazy shit going on.
Heat is
Heat.
unreal. I actually think arguably Heat is better than Many Men.
Like Jack in a Box. That shit is crazy. I love Heat. Man, and we love these songs.
Yeah, I mean, as I was about to say to you, you know, before we started the podcast, is like, you asked me, you know, how did I get into hip hop? And it was Get Rich or Die Trying. That's what it was for me. It was 2003, and you know, my family didn't listen to hip hop. My parents were born in Russia, and so it's not like they were like, "Hey, check this shit out." That never happened. So I was at a family friend's house, and their dad went to America for business, and he brought the album back as like, "Look at what they're listening to. What a joke." And it's 50 Cent on the cover. You know, it was so far outside of the realm of anything they could comprehend. And so they put it on, and it like broke my brain.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I love it, but the sound encapsulated me. I used to fall asleep to that album. So like, that's what it was. And then after that, it was like, obviously you find people like Eminem, and then it was like, you know, that top surface layer, and then I became friends.
So after you got Get Rich Die Trying, right? What was your next move? Like, what happened?
Well, I was 9 years old, so I was like, I got to find this album and I got to listen to it over and over again. And my parents kept going like, "What are you doing? It has to be a phase." They've been saying hip hop is a phase to me since I was 9 years old, and they've been saying it ever since. And I'm 28 right now. They know it's not a phase anymore because, like, you know, because of what I do. But they were saying it well into my early 20s. Like, you can't listen to this forever. I'm like, I can, and I will.
And man, bro. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I made friends with a couple of people that love hip hop as well. And they were a couple of years older, and he started going, "If you like this, go check out this." So he started pointing me in the direction of different artists, and like who to check out. And I always gravitated towards East Coast sounds. There's something about the boom bap of it all. There's something about the feeling that really hit me in the right way. So yeah, it's been like it's a weird journey, honestly, when I look back, because I always say, you know, I didn't grow up in that environment, but for whatever reason, the music just clicked with me.
Incredible. Wow. Look at the reach of hip hop.
It's amazing. I mean, I've spoken to a few people, and they're like, you know, when you live it in the 90s, you can't really comprehend where it can go. And where it is right now is unbelievable. It's in every walk of life.
Unbelievable. And it's like, now it's being, it's like the base of almost everything we're hearing. Like, when you hear the biggest pop songs and the biggest R&B records and the biggest fucking even country at this point, you start listening and it's like, wow, there's hip hop there. Like, that shit is insane, the reach it has had just across the board.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it is so kind of attractive to all genres of music?
I think it's because of like the same thing that makes you attracted to like gangster rap back then. It's like it's so cool. Like hip hop is just so, even if you're not in a rap, you know who Drake is because Drake is cool. Like, you feel me? It's like, bro, he just doing cool shit. So you're gonna know Jay-Z is like, man, he's doing some cool shit. So naturally, I think it's just the cool thing. Like, if there was no hip hop, what the fuck would you pay attention? Like, like, you know, like what what kind of excites your world when it yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Like, my world is consumed with hip hop. Like, just culturally, my life is like, I grew up very hip hop, you know, like that's been my entire life. Like, it's so I never thought, like, what the fuck do people do when they're not into hip hop?
Be honest, it's
Like, what's the
super
excitement?
weird. Most of my friends are not into it, right? And growing up at school, I was like the odd one out where I was like super into it, and all my friends were like, "What the fuck do you listen to?" And I'm like,
I
"Just
feel like hip hop makes you normal.
it,
Like
it makes you normal in the States. It made me very weird in Australia. It made me like the odd one out, and they would be like, "Oh, we're going to play music. Everyone except Burkos. We're not. No. We know what you're going to play." And they're playing like indie shit, and like I just never got it. I don't know. There was no feeling to it to me. There was just nothing that like really attracted me. And you're right. It's more than just the
soul
music.
is missing. It's like the soul, like the like, man, bro, it's missing. It's not there.
It's also the characters in hip hop. Like I love the people. I love the stories. I love, the interpersonal relationships they have with one another. Like I love that there are people who jump on features and then you're versing each other. It's literally a battle of who has the better verse. What other genre of music do you have that in? It's
none. Right, none.
And then as a
Man.
fan, I get to go, who had the better verse? And I get to argue with my other friends and be like, no, his verse was better. He bodied that. The delivery was better. Or like this bar was better, or whatever it is, like the flow was better. It gives you so much to talk about. Like, honestly.
Man, isn't it beautiful when like there's multiple artists and they all did exceptional? Man, that'd be the best shit ever.
And then it's the opposite when there's one who just missed. Like there's 6 features on and then one missed, and you're like, oh, you had a rough day. That's a rough. Right. And then they still put it out.
And then there's some who always miss. There's some who always miss too. That shit is hilarious. Right.
You know what is? They got money so they can buy features, right? And this is the interesting thing. Like, this is the industry shit. And I love finding out about industry things. I'm obsessed with it all. So like, but then if you've got the money, you can get the features. So you can get features like Method Man. You can get some features like King Crooked. You can get those artists that body every single fucking track. But then they expose you for what you don't have. And I'm like, sometimes you need to stick at your level. Sometimes you're not ready to have a legend on your track.
That's where money dilutes so much of the art, because without money, they're just like certain niggas that artists wouldn't work with. Like if they weren't getting paid, they wouldn't, normally do that work. They wouldn't even see or hear the track. So it really dilutes the art sometimes. But it also sometimes it improves the art because you're able to get shit that is like, man, that would have never fucking happened. Like, bro, Billy Ray Cyrus, Lil Nas X, like, you feel me? That shit is crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you think that a big challenge is like when you're coming up, it's hard to be like self-aware? That's what I feel like a lot of artists struggle with, is like knowing where you're at in comparison to a lot of other artists. What do I actually need to work on technically? Is it, what I rap about? Is it the flow? Is it the cadence? Now, I just see a lot of rappers feel like they struggle to know where they're at and what they need to do to get to the next level.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah, and you could hear it in the music. You know, I feel like you could you gotta like the music gives you a good glimpse of how self-aware someone is, you know, or just what kind of person. Like the music gives you a good glimpse. You can only, you know, say what you know, you know, and there's some artists that speak so like you just know, you're like, okay, he gets it, you know. So yeah, it's definitely plays a part, but it's like it's not the music that it's them, you know, it's connected to the life.
Well, how did you stay kind of, true to yourself? I think it's a really hard journey to be on because you've been, like I said, you've been rapping for a long time, and there comes a point in every person's career, whether it be, as an artist or anything else. I know with the podcast for me is like you try to find the right persona in a way. You try to experiment. You're like, you know what, this isn't working for me. Let me try something new. But how did you actually arrive to a point where like, I'm just going to stay true to myself?
It just became like the easiest to write about. Like it became the easiest to write about. You feel me? Like it just it's so much harder to make a bunch of shit up. Like it's very easy for me to talk about riding my bike or relationships and love or what my mom is doing at the house. Like bro, it really happens. So, you know, it just becomes easier to write. There got to a point where it's like I just start writing raps and I was able to write songs in like 5-10 minutes because it was like I'm literally just having a conversation the same way we speak. Like I rap, you know, in the same manner that we speak. So it just was easier for me.
Well, it's weird because I know you said that I've heard you say before, like you're not a preacher, but in a weird way, you have that vibe of like, and it's like, and it's the clarity in which you speak. And I think that's one of the strengths that you have. And I feel like I'm giving you a lot of strengths, but one of the strengths is, when you actually spit a verse, you're extremely easy to understand. There's no kind of missing words. I'm not like, oh, let me rewind to hear that word again to make sure I'm on the same track. Like there is this really nice kind of cadence. It's not slow, it's not fast, but I can hear it all. And I think a lot of artists, and to be honest, I would definitely struggle. I struggle speaking sometimes too quickly, is like you want them to hear every word because every word is important. And I think you do that really well.
Wow. You want them to hear every word because every word is important. Yes. Yeah. No, very much so. Yes. Incredible. Incredible work. You got me.
Well, you can quote me from now on and be like, every word's important. Listen, that's the goal.
Every word is important, man. Oh shit, I'm on the phone. I'm about to write that really quick. Hold on.
No, go write it down.
Incredible.
When I hear it in your next track and be like, listen to the podcast because
if I use it, we're gonna get a split for it, man. I'm writing another book, and I think this is going to land in that book.
Hell yeah. Do you know, I've realized, and this is me trying to become self-aware, is like without planning to say things, I say way better things than when I think about planning things. Like organically, it just comes out better.
You have to. I notice when I do interviews, like we did earlier, like when we get on, no one starts recording right away. They kind of give you the briefing before, and it's like, bro, get into that shit. You feel me? Because you got to get into a flow. You create like a very natural flow. It's hard to do this when it's structured. Like art can't have that structure or those boxes or those guides. You can't have them.
Well, how is it going into radio shows? I've always wanted this experience because, for us, we're doing this online. You come on, we have like 30 seconds of chat and then I record. Like that's kind of how I like to roll because I like the discovery of like we're figuring each other out while the listener is also seeing us figure each other out. Like, we don't have a prior relationship where we're like great friends and we have in jokes. Right. So we're like like it's such a collaborative work, and that's why I love doing what I do. But like, how is it on a radio show where like you got to rock up? You know, I'm sure they give you a briefing. You know, they're gonna like, here's how much time we have. Like, how does that work?
Man, for me, we get straight to it. Like the Breakfast Club, we actually have a video on YouTube of the entire process. Like I walk in, rap, and leave, you know. So it's same with LA Leakers. It was kind of like me and Just Incredible have a relationship, but we went straight to the freestyle and kind of got into it. Yeah. Bootleg Kev was like a bit longer. We kind of chilled and chopped it up a bit before. But yeah, man, I like to get straight into it because I kind of in like that position where I like to feel someone out, you know, as I go. Because once I know you or once we've had the conversation, it's very hard for it to be organic after.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. Do you think like, do they like it when you just get in, get out? Like, for in a weird way, I'm sure they kind of want you to like, you know, mull about a bit, chill before, chill after, like instead of like, I don't know. It's I wonder what their preference is.
I don't think so, man. I think like everyone's working, you know. So I notice like different environments, man, everyone's kind of working. Like we all love what we do, but we all have like jobs and things to go do as well. So it's never man, that time that we do spend in those moments is like, you know, that so much happen. Like when you create moments like we've done with Leakers and Breakfast Club together, it's like you don't need much time to grow that bond, you know, because it's like, bro, this shit was crazy and we created it together.
Well, how did you feel, you know, straight away after LA Lakers? Because obviously it blew up, right? Everyone
Yeah.
talked about it. How did you feel leaving? Like, did you have a feeling after you left? Was there kind of...
Man, we knew before we got there. We knew on the way there what was about to happen. No, it was everything we knew was good. You know, me and Justin are really good friends, and we knew like this was, it's like, bro, we know when it's that time it's going to happen. So it was beautiful to see it manifest, you know, like we all believed. And I think that's the reason why I did, because we were all in that same energy of like, this is going to be historic, you know.
Well, it feels like every time you drop a freestyle, everyone's like, what are you doing? Don't stop. Keep going. Like, I don't want you to stop. Like in the Breakfast Club, they were like, hold on, let's throw another one at you. Let's hear you do another one. Everyone was like, you know, one's not enough. They want the encore.
Yeah, man, a moment. a moment, man. I like being able to do like multiple things when I go places, because it's like I really want to be able to showcase the range and different abilities. So I was so happy that they were down to kind of do that.
How do you feel about artists who don't want to do freestyles? Because I know there are some who are like, hey, you know, you'll hear it in my next project or you'll hear it on my single or whatever it might be. But there are artists who are like, no, I don't do that shit live.
I think they're missing out on fun, you know. I think like that's the thing I've noticed within the game just lately. It's like niggas don't be having fun. Like, you know, it's like, bro, it's just very serious and nasty and grit, man. It just be, the fun be gone. Like, man, I want to see niggas dancing and smiling, you know. I'll be dancing and smiling. And it's like, you could make the different tones, but I don't know. The fun just seemed like it's missing. Everything seemed very, just, I don't know. It doesn't feel real, you know. It feels like it feels like a performance.
You think that's because there are now different interests involved? Like when you get to a certain point in your career and you're no longer, or for the most part, there are definitely certain artists who get to stay themselves, but it feels like there are also a number of them who don't get to be the person they were coming up. There's now brands, there's now, you know, affiliations, there's now, okay, we got to protect what we've built as opposed to let you do who you are and continue to let that happen.
Man, I always wonder if like this shit is like I always wonder if this shit is like agenda based or if people are just really it's too deep to even elaborate at this
No, go
current
for it. I
moment.
can see the wheels turning. I can see them turning.
Man,
I feel like you're going to say something interesting. Whether we agree or not is different, but like, yeah, I'm interested to know what you're thinking.
it feels everything just feels like a performance. That's the simplest way I could put this without having to have a 2-hour dissertation.
Hey man, as I said, this is my show, so we get to do whatever we want. So you can make your point, we can move on. There's no real rules. We don't have to have a 2-hour dissertation. But like, so do you feel like they're not genuine anymore? They kind of lost what makes
I
them
don't think
unique?
any man, I think it's genuine to who people are, but I don't know if who people are is genuine to them, but the actions that they're doing is genuine to who they're portraying themselves to be. I just always question how much of these people are actually them and how much it's like needing to feel big through ego or even needing to feel big through trauma, needing to feel big through an agenda. um it's just very interesting to watch because now I'm in a position as well where I do get to meet artists and meet producers and meet people, and that's a very interesting position to be in. When you're as receptive as I am to just life.
Are you surprised when you meet people?
No, no, I'm actually not surprised at all. No, um, no.
See, that I find interesting. I find it interesting that when you're starting to meet people, you can see that there's something bigger at play, but you're not surprised by that. So that
No.
I find really interesting because I think that would surprise me is like who, like the different people that I meet, I'm like, who is more genuine than others? That would surprise me, I think. But why do you think you're not surprised by that?
Man, it's funny. I'd be hurt. I'd be like hurt about certain situations and how certain people maneuver, but I don't be surprised. It's a very interesting state. Like I'm let down, but I'm not. It's not shocking. Like I don't expect anyone to be a certain way, but it's not shocking when you kind of find out. I don't know. It's an interesting state to be in, and I just fucking overanalyze everything. So when I meet people, I'm like fucking data type shit. You feel me? Like I'm just constantly analyzing. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting space to be in. Like I'm happy that I get to meet people that it's like, man, I want to know what this person is like. But it's also like, you yeah. Sometimes
Yeah,
you lose the feeling for
yeah, you're
certain
seeing
people.
behind the curtain. You're seeing, behind the show. You're seeing behind, because like for me as well is like, I had this image of like what artists are like, and 99% of my interactions are awesome. But like, there's also times where I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is not necessarily what I expect, and it's kind of I kind of love it and I kind of hate it because like every artist I speak to, I'm like, you're just a person like me, and it
Right?
and it's like you also have flaws. Like I look up to you and I'm inspired by you and I appreciate the things that you do, but I can also see that you go through the same shit that I go through because I also overanalyze. And so like, doing this especially is like, I focus hard on like, body language, on, where our eyes moving, even if there's nothing meant by it. It's like, it's just that thing of like the wheels are always turning and I'm always trying to be like, are they enjoying this? Even if they are, it's like that little self-doubt that you have in the back of your mind but it just work to just make sure that that doesn't control you and force you to do something that you don't particularly want to do.
That little self-doubt thing, man, it'll do you in. that could make or break everything sometimes.
Yeah. There are times where I'm like, and I've never said this to anybody, but like there are times where there's this like self-doubt where it's like, maybe I don't want them to show up today. And it's like this weird kind of, because I do, and I work hard and I make sure and I want them all to show up. But then I've done the work. I've booked them. We're organized. We're ready to go. And then there's like, you wake up and you're like, what if they don't show? Maybe I don't have to put myself out there again. Maybe I don't have to, take that risk. But it's like, I want to do those things. And I don't know why my head is like, maybe if they don't show up, then I just get to continue. And it's like, I don't want those thoughts, but they make me who I am. And they force you to like acknowledge those doubts.
Man, right. It's a very interesting thing. Like the mind be heavy on self-sabotage. And it's so intriguing. Like I be wondering if everybody's like experiencing that same thing. And like why do we just choose self-sabotage out of everything instead of like self-reassurance or like, self-care? We choose self-sabotage. Like I'll choose a honey bun over sit-ups. And it's like, why? It's a very interesting, and that times 50 decisions a day,
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts.
It is. It's really weird. Like I wondered the same thing, like why? Because I have the goal and I have the dream and I put in the work, but then like I still have this weird part of me that's like, oh, you could fuck this up on purpose. And it's like, but why? On purpose. Right?
Oh like, man, the worst.
And it's like just so annoying because it's like those are thoughts I hate. And I could like I could say some inflammatory shit. I could stop the podcast. I could start doing random shit. But those are all the things I don't want to do because like I legitimately care about what I do. And, you care about what you do, but you could go tomorrow and be like, nah, I'm done.
I'd be heavy on the self-sabotage some days. This could all end any day, like that shit it's really crazy. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Interesting space state.
How do you push past it? Like, especially now, right? As we said, you're on the come up. People are talking about you. People are recognizing what you bring to the table as an artist, and yet, you're getting all this external validation, for the first time on a mass level.
Right.
Yet this self-sabotage in the background, like, how do you maneuver it all? Because it's like the ego gets fed, but like there's still a deeper part of you that's like, I could stop this right now.
Man, I have this fucking crazy deep feeling to just be like great. Very hard to explain, and it kills me. It motivates me to be great, but it also it beats me down when I'm not great. You feel me? When I'm not able to show up and fulfill that feeling and abide by it. So but I think that's what kind of keeps me rooted. Like I have this it's just in me. Check the X-ray, bitches, in me, like it's just there. And I don't even know how to explain it or what it is, but man, bro, it's been the driving factor to be able to just get up every day and go and go. Like it takes a lot to post every day and to make something every day and create and show up every day. Like you gotta really, it's really gotta be something in you. Like you just, I can't fucking stop if I wanted to, bro. It just doesn't work that way.
Do you remember the first time you felt it, or do you think you've always had it as like a kid? Do you remember that? Like, I don't know. Is there a turning point for you where you were just like, I know now what it is that I'm feeling?
Man, I think since a child I've always been kind of guided. Guided. I always felt like I knew where I was going. I may not have knew how I was going to get where I was going, but I knew where I was going. And that really allowed me to like just maneuver differently and make different decisions. Yeah, I can't pinpoint a time. I've always kind of felt very just kind of like in a man, it feels like I got to really just watch my world from third person, like as a witness to it sometimes. It's a very interesting thing, but I don't know. I feel like it's always been like a deep knowing.
It
Like
is.
I knew all this shit was going to happen.
Yeah, it is interesting because sometimes I feel like what you need to do is give yourself permission to believe it. Like, like for me personally, like,
Hold on, bars. Hold on.
shit, I should maybe start ghostwriting for people.
Hey man, do it. Why not? You know, you wanna the goal is to leave this world empty.
Hey,
Like
I know my
when you get there, you should be deflated. Deflated. Nothing on me works. My hands don't work, my legs don't work, I used everything.
yeah. I kind of agree, but I think, like I was saying, I think you got to give yourself permission to believe in what you do, the feelings that you have. And I think that stops a lot of people. I know that stopped me in my life, is like, I didn't give myself permission to believe in what I wanted to do. And it was like again, the self-sabotage, but the self-talk of like, what will others think of me? What if this doesn't work? What if I fail? What if, I tell people I'm going to do it and then I try and it doesn't work. And then when you start, you realize there's no failing unless you quit. And, and it's the easiest thing ever. You just don't quit. That's it. And and it's just so easy because you just come in and I work every day and I make sure that I don't stop. And I reckon there are definitely people I know who, when I started, they were like, and I told them that I'm going to start interviewing rappers. And they're like, who the fuck are you going to interview? Because like, you're in Australia, you're just some guy who likes it, but like, why would anyone talk to you? Hilarious. And here we are 100 episodes later. And, I'm speaking to artists to me that are like, at the A level of the game. So like, it's just, I didn't quit. And if anything, those people saying you can't do it, I'm a competitive person, makes me want to do it way more. It's like, no, fuck you. I know. Yeah. So it's so weird what drives us and motivates us. I need the doubt. As soon as too many people start complimenting me, I'm like, no, I need someone to be like, you got more work to do. Because I need that driving factor.
That's my dad. That's hella funny. Right, man. Job ain't done. Job ain't done. Job ain't done.
Job ain't done.
Job ain't done. Yeah. Man, thanks for having me. I'm getting some gems out of here.
Well, now you just got to keep coming on the show. That's the incentive for you is like, we just keep doing this.
come on it, or you
Yeah.
got to come out here.
Well, actually, funnily enough, I've been saying to my family, saying to my friends, I actually want to move to the States. Like that's a move in the next 12 months. That's something I want to do. I want to,
Wow.
I want to get out of, I just want to get out of Melbourne. Like I've been here all my life and I think I'm ready to just feel something new. You know, for the podcast, it would be amazing to see artists face to face, but also just to have something different. And that's kind of what I'm working towards right now is like figure out, how to make that move happen. That's kind of on the to-do list of like, all right, let's do it in the next 12 months.
Beautiful, man. I'm excited to bear witness.
Well, it'll happen. It'll definitely happen. Now that I've made the decision, it's just getting everything in order and just making sure that, don't quit.
The universe gonna take care of it. Do the work.
Well, is there a different environment? Like, do you feel when you do shows in different states, you can feel the different vibes in each of the city?
Yes, only because I'm from the Bay. The energy is just different. Like it's just different. Like we dance different. So, when I play certain songs and you don't get the same reaction, it's like, oh, they're just not from the Bay. Like so it's just a different type of energy, but still energy, still regulars and hype and all that shit. But it's just different than when you're like at home. But other than that, I don't know. I got a show in Nebraska in June, so it's going to be interesting to see what that energy is like when we step out of there. But I would assume it's similar just because Instagram, these people are from all over and they're all feeling the same energy and moment. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think maybe you'll see it more internationally. It's like, what are your international fans like? What's the type of fan that you get? Because I've been to Eminem shows when he comes down here, and I can see the type of Australians that go to that show. I'm like, oh, it's interesting seeing the different types of Australians that are coming to these shows. Wow. But they're usually tatted up. They usually
comes out there. Like, who have you seen out in Australia? Because only the bigger artists go to Australia. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Stormzy has come down a couple of times. Action Bronson's come down. Royce came down. But then when Eminem came down one year, Joe Cole opened for him, and so did Kendrick. So I was at the show. It was crazy. It's like a hip hop festival is the only way I can describe it. It was literally,
wow, that's an insane lineup.
Yeah, it was Action Bronson, Kendrick, Cole, Eminem. It was crazy.
Wow. Yeah. I've I want to see Eminem live. That'd be an interesting show.
He is incredible live.
I believe it. I mean, I believe it.
Like, whatever you think about him, he's a professional when it comes to his stage shows. I've seen 50 Cent live. I think with 50, I was a little bit disappointed with his live show. He did it in an outdoor show. And I think sound-wise, he didn't sound as crisp as Eminem did. He was in an indoor venue the first time I saw him at Eddie. It was Etihad Stadium, and then he did it at the MCG, which is our biggest stadium. It holds 100,000 people. And he filled it max. Like, it was the biggest show we've ever had.
100,000 fucking people.
Yeah. They block off half the stage, but I think maybe 80,000, 75,000.
100,000 people?
Yeah, can fit in the MCG, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I think he was the first ever artist to sell it out, or definitely first rapper to ever sell it out.
Or Eminem?
Eminem. Yeah. It was unreal.
What? Wow.
Yeah. He draws big in Australia. He really does. He gets some big crowds. 50 Cent gets big crowds. I think everyone tends to get big crowds. How is it
getting to you guys? How do you find new music?
Well, for me now, internet's the greatest thing ever. But like, Spotify is actually really good at recommending new artists. But personally, I look for artists I know, And then who are they working with? And then I follow like the connection between them. This producer, I love this sound. Who's the producer on this? Okay, awesome. They're the producer. Who did they work with? And then I'm following the connections. Okay, this artist is featuring here. That's a really good track. Let me dive deeper into their catalog. Who are they working with, and so on and so forth.
How'd you find me?
Funnily enough, someone I know mentioned you to me. They were like,
Wow.
you got to check out his freestyle. Literally. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go check it out. And then like I followed you on Instagram. I listened to your stuff and I was like, that's a good recommendation. I cannot, and it took me a while to figure out, you know, what it was about you that I was like, there's something good here. I couldn't even put it into words myself. There was just a vibe about it. And I think now I can put it into words because I've listened to you and like I see what you do and I see how appreciative you are of it all. Like there are people where they do well and they're not appreciative and it's a weird energy that I get back. But like you don't have that energy and I'm like, I see it. I kind of see why everyone has fun with you. I see why people want to have you on their shows and why people like, they want you to do well. I think that's the cool thing is like everyone in the industry wants you to do well.
That. Yeah. Right. It's funny how like that could be like the theme, but the support isn't reflective of that. Like if that was true and everyone in the industry did want to see a person do well, you'd get so much industry support. Just like off the rip, you know, which I guess I get a lot of industry support, but there's so many things that could be done that doesn't get done. But you do get that difficult to explain, bro. Like everyone says they support you, but it's very minimal that people do, you know?
I think there's a difference. Like, you know, I think a lot of people, they will look at you, they want you to do well, but they want you to earn it. They don't want it given to you. So they may hold back and they may be like, I actually want LaRussell to do well, but I also want him to earn the stripes. So it's a bit of that. But then I also think there are others who are, I want him to do well, but I don't want to admit it. And I'm not going to help him because it may hurt my career or it may hurt things that I care about. So they may stay. So I think it's all of that is why you may not see the help that you get or may not see that many people, you know, reaching their hands out. Because I think a lot of them are like, I went through shit. So it's now you have to go through shit. Like you got to earn it like I had to earn it rather than let me help you and not go through the shit that I had to go through.
Right. And that's the perspective, which is so funny to me because that's like my perspective. Like, you know, the artists that come up behind me, I look at it like, I'm going to try to make this shit easier for you, you know? And I guess that could be a hindrance in some aspect, but I don't know. Some things, there's some things you really don't have to learn the hard way or have to like, I don't know. I guess it could be a bit of both, you know?
I think industry things are one of the things that hip hop needs to get better at. There are a lot of artists who don't know anything about the industry. Like the music itself is super available. You can study it, you can learn, you can see what people are doing well. You know, the technique is discussed so much, but the industry itself, the business of making music, of, you know, distributing, of getting features, of paying people, of like, that's not really discussed. And I think that's the missing link of like, a lot of people get stuck in a trap or in a deal that they shouldn't be in because that for whatever, and it's not fun to learn about. Like it's contracts, it's, you know, you sit in a boardroom, it's like, what is a 360 deal? You know, who do I have to pay? It's, I'm talking about it and I'm like, unless you're interested in it and like, it's pretty tough to just learn about.
Are like, I had to man, I got books on books, and I'm interested, but it's still like, it's like, oh, you feel me? Like having to consider, and it sucks. Just you got to do all that just to have like a decent career. Like if you really want to have a career where you understand what's happening and you're aware and conscious of what's being done and how your things are being handled, you got to do a lot of fucking research and dive in it. It's man, bro, that shit's crazy just to make art.
Yeah,
just to make art.
Well, here's the thing though, you can make art, but if you want to get paid, you got to do it, because no one's giving it to you for free. So like anyone can create art. And I love the world right now that we live in because it's so available. You can make art so much faster than ever before. You can make art on your phone. Everyone has a mobile phone. Everyone has a computer or a tablet or like access to those things. You can actually do it. You can buy a mic for $100 and you can do it in your own house. It's accessible. Before, maybe not. Like you don't necessarily need a true studio.
How do you feel about an abundance of music being released by an artist? Like, do you feel like there's a thing as an artist releasing too much music too fast?
Yeah.
And why?
So I understand both ways. So I personally think if I'm a brand and I put in a lot of work, I want to see its life cycle. I want to see how it does with my fans in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. I want to see the evolution of it. I want to be able to figure it out and know, okay, what went well, what didn't go well. And I also want my fans, even if it does amazing, I want them to miss me. I want them to come back and be like, I cannot wait for you to drop another album. That's what I want to build, right? And again, this is my perception as a fan. Obviously, I do a podcast, I drop one a week. So like, I don't do it because I just can't. If I did one podcast every 6 months, no one would listen to me. But like as an artist, but as an artist, I think you've got a bit more scope. And I think it's different when you are doing well versus when you're on the come up. When you're on the come up, you're trying to figure out, okay, what sound is it? So maybe I'll drop more music because I want to see what fans gravitate towards. But I think there comes a point where less is more. You protect.
What if you're always on the come up?
Well, it's like Drake is no longer. Well, Kendrick is a great example. Like, how many albums does he drop? What's his frequency? People are getting annoyed to have to wait for so long.
Would we be upset if we got like more frequent new Kendrick music?
Only if it's not as good.
Right. Only if it's not as good.
So that's the challenge.
If
it's fire, everyone's happy. But realistically, it's hard to create 5 albums in a year, all of the songs on the albums being really good. That's the true it is. And I know you dropped like 6 albums last year. I know. So don't worry, I'm aware. But I'm just saying, like, to do that year after year after year.
Right.
Whereas like you can make sure you nail 1 or 2 projects a year. You can guarantee it.
Right. But when you're shooting 100 shots, it's very hard to guarantee you're going to make 100. You can make 10, But I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, if you can, like I love certain artists that have longer catalogs or that release more. All the music isn't always great, but if you can, it's a win. Me and my pops are always discussing like, is there a loss in dropping more music or less music, and how would people receive that? As a fan, like, are you excited that you're getting so much music, or are you like, I hate this nigga, he's giving me too much music? You feel me?
Well,
like, is that a thing?
Sometimes you don't have time to listen to it all. Like, because like no one listens to just one artist. So they're following multiple artists, right? And they want to give every artist that they like a chance. So they may give you your first 1, 2, 3, but if they don't see a real difference or a real, success rate on those albums, then those next three, maybe they're not paying attention to as much. They may skim, they give it a go, but you may do yourself some damage. Whereas, like, I always think you should always be creating, and you should always have those songs. But like, I know it's hard because you got to do yourself a favor as well. And it's like, if I make music and I never release it, what's the point? But it's I don't know. There's no real right answer. It depends on the artist.
Right. there's like,
yeah,
man, that it'd be crazy because like some days I'm like stuck in this scope of it, of like, man, and it makes me decide to do nothing. And it's like when you get to that root of like, bro, there's no rule, there's no nothing, man, that's how I end up dropping, fucking 6 albums at the end of last year, because it was like, bro, there's no rule. There's no, and it's interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with 12. Like I dropped 6 albums and no one has gotten tired of me. I've only gained more of it. Well, some people may have left, but it's like, you're a fan now, and it's like, at what point did you come in? Like what album was I on when you found me?
To be honest, it was probably late 2021. So like, you already had a catalog. And what helped me was like, I can just pick and choose what I liked. So like, I can go, all right, you've got a lot of music, and I can go, what's my favorite part of the music that you drop? And I really loved 8 pounds, 2 ounces. Like I really loved the sound on it. I loved just the overall feeling. To me, that just hit like what I like. It was more like the traditional hip hop sound. Like it just connected with me, but it brought me in. But I think, it's difficult because I can't tell every artist to do the same thing. And then there are artists who only drop one project every 2 to 3 years, and it's not enough. It honestly is not enough.
Right? It's like, bro, you got to do right. Because I feel like when you operate in that space, if that shit's not great, you lost me.
Well, it's not only you lost you, but you lost 6 years or 4 years. And it's like my last project, I was 20 years old. I wait another 2 years. I'm 22. And then it's another 2 years. That's 4 years. And you dropped one album. It's not frequent enough, especially when you're trying to build up. Like Kendrick can afford to do it now because of the success he's had in the past. So people they're always going to look forward to it. But people like Jay Electronica, he does amazing stuff, but everyone's like, why is it taking so long? I wish we had more of your music. So it kind of hurts him in the long run. I spoke to John Connor. He was signed to Dre for 5 years. They never released his album. And it hurt him long term because it was too long. And I think there's a difference between an album and you still doing shit. So you can take more time to drop an album, but you better be featuring. You better be doing freestyles. You better be hustling in other ways.
Right.
I don't like when I see artists who are just like, I'm going to hide for 2 years and then drop an album, because the world changes so much. You still need to retain relevance. It's a balancing act. It's like, there's no right or wrong way. And if it works for you, it works for you. I just personally, from what I would do, is like, I'd want to give myself a little bit of time, whether it be 2 or 3 months, to see how an album breathes before I drop the next. So it may not be 6, it might be 3 albums I drop a year, because I want to give it the time. But, I'm just an observer.
I look at the lifespan of like songs and projects as the lifespan of my career. I have the rest of my career to push Field Effect 1 and Field Effect 2 and Never Forget. And I've been looking at that shit like that now. And especially because like with relevance, like I talk a lot about what I'm currently like experiencing. So I be having to get this shit out. Like I got a shit ton of music right now, and I'm almost mad that I can't drop it fast enough, because it's like I have so many that it's like, well, we're not going to get to this one till December if we drop like this. And it's like, well, I don't feel like that in December though. Like it needs to come now. This shit is fucking nuts. I would drop an album every fucking day, honestly. Like it's and I make it to that point eventually, and it's just going to be like some new shit. Like who knows?
I think that is probably the biggest challenge is the sound that you decide you want may not be there anymore. It may not be the sound that people, but I will say,
timeless,
yeah,
timeless.
Good albums are good albums. It's undeniable. If it's a great project, it's a great project. Kendrick, well, I mean, we talked about him a little bit, but Kendrick seems to do that really well. Is he just finds a sound that works for him, and no matter the time, no matter what everybody else is doing, it seems to fit his mold. And he's on a track run of like 4 albums in a row that have been back-to-back killers. He could, when this drops, or it's probably going to drop by the time this podcast comes out, but like, could be 5 of 5.
I'm excited for it, man. And that doesn't happen often. Like I'm not excited for music, but Kendrick, Cole, and Drake still gets me like, yeah.
I've said on the show, but like I struggle with Cole because his tonality for me is missing. Like that's the only thing. His voice is just not something that, for whatever reason, and I can't explain it. Everyone gets annoyed at me. All my friends, they're like, out of everyone, like why? And lyrically, he's so potent. But there's something to me about the voice that like I love, like an interesting voice, and I don't know. I can't even explain it. Like I recognize how good he is, but there's just something to me that's like, man, I wish I loved this more. I wish I liked this more. And it's not even anything he can control. It's like, I know it's good. Like I know objectively I can tell, but am I going to actively and just listen to it in my own time? That's what I can't do. That's what I struggle with sometimes.
Wow. But you love Kendrick and Drake, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I've been obsessed with Good Kid, Mad City for so long. Like that album was just absolute fire. And like Drake doesn't do everything I like, but if you're reading this, it's too late. That got me really heavily on the Drake train. And
Drake
like
checked all boxes.
Yeah.
Right. That man is incredible. It doesn't even make sense at this point. Like it really, I don't understand how you could do so much. Like to me, he's the greatest just due to range. Like, bro, there's not too many artists who can give you Just Hold On, We're Going Home, Hotline Bling, Still Away, and then give you nonstop. Like, bro, that shit is that's nuts.
I don't know how he does it, because I hear Hotline Bling in the club and I want to dance my ass off, but then I hear Energy and I'm like, got the, and I'm like, how do you go from one to the other?
One is to the grave, and like he has no, man, this shit could go anywhere. Like man, it's greatness. Greatness is determined by doing a lot of things exceptional.
And what's even more impressive is like he's Canadian too. I sometimes forget about that.
Canadian. He's Canadian. Oh my God. He's Jewish.
Yeah. Did you see him the other day, by the way? There was a fan who messaged him saying he ain't shit or whatever. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to message your wife. Right. I'm going to DM your wife because like she looks lonely or whatever the fuck he said. And then he followed her. He followed her on IG and DM'd her. And if I was him, I would be so worried right now. If there's anyone that could almost take any girl in the world, it's him.
Hey, that is hilarious, bro. He's got it. He checks all boxes, man. The personality, the character, bro. Greatness, man. Drake, here goes your flowers.
Yeah, and work with LaRussell, and feel free to come on the Hip Hop Hustle podcast.
Come on.
Shout out, because we would love that. Honestly, I'd take 2 minutes with Drake, because then I would be like, I would post that shit everywhere. I would go crazy with posting that shit. I would be like, I quit my job. I've joked about this with like, because I have a full-time job as well. And so like I said when I started, if I get Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, or any one of those people, I'm quitting the next day. Like, I promise you I'm quitting. So like prepare, because when that happens, it's all over. I'm not working anymore. I'm doing the podcast forever. So like,
well, you got me.
I did. That's actually pretty bloody good. Like, yeah, I was, when I got you, I was like, yeah, I know. Well, to be honest, it depends. It could pop off. I never know. Same as like any musician, I'm always one podcast away.
Always, man, always.
I kind of love that and hate that all at the same time.
What's the hate about it?
Well, you hate it because it's so close but so far, and you never know.
Man, it's always so close.
Yeah.
It's never so far. It's always so close.
That you should write. That's a good one. It's always so close.
Come on. Let's go.
You ever feel like, do you like when people are with you when you're writing, or do you have to write on your own?
I kind of, it doesn't matter much to me. I don't like a bunch of people in the studio just because it's like, y'all don't need to be there. Y'all not doing anything. But I could write with people around. When I write, I kind of go into like a fucking, I'm just in a different space. Like, I'm not paying attention to anything else. So yeah, I could do either. But yeah, I prefer minimal amount of people around.
I always find it interesting to hear the stories of the greats and they didn't write anything down. And I don't know how it was. Like, I spoke to Tracy Lee and he did a track with Biggie, and he was like, I remember being in the studio with him and you would just talk to him like we're talking right now. And then you would start seeing him do this. And he was like, oh, he's creating in his own head. And then he'd get in the booth and he'd just spit what he came up with in his own mind. And it was like he never wrote anything down because it diluted the feeling of what he wanted to have. And I'm just like, how the fuck did you come up with that in your head? Like,
That's
if I was, I was blown away.
Writing for me like increases the feeling. Like, I'm able to, when I write, it's like I'm able to really express what I feel versus, you know how like when you're in the moment, sometimes you just say certain shit and it's like, I could have said that better. You know,
What are you
like,
talking about? I never have that feeling as a podcaster. I never have that feeling when I look back and I'm like, fuck, how could I have said that better?
Right, man. And I feel like writing allows you to like, I hear a lot of music today where it's like, like that, like there's no right. And it depends on the artist. Like Jay-Z does that, but he still writes. He just doesn't write it on paper, but you're still writing. But I hear a lot of music now where I could tell the artist is not writing. It's like, yeah, you couldn't have fucking wrote this. So I think there's an art to like both of those. Writing kind of really allows you to craft, like, mold this thing. But yeah, that shit is insane too, just to be able to walk in there and fucking to say something poetic, like it's one thing to walk in there and just rap, but to walk in there and come out with juicy is like, wow.
Well, like, give me the loot to me. I don't like to be two different people to have a story crafted so well and not to have to write that down. Like, I don't understand. And the cadences and like, just everything about, just how we did it. Kick in the Door is one of my favorite of all time for Biggie. And I'm just like, how? I don't understand. Like, you could give me 10 years and I don't think I could come up with something that good. Okay, 10 years is a long time. If I really tried my absolute hardest, maybe I could. But for him to be able to do it, actually, I want to take that back. I don't want people to think that I have the ability to like do. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. But like, but just imagining the process, imagining, what he was like in the studio and just the process that he had. It's unbelievable to me.
Man, I wish we had footage.
Imagine how many people would study it.
Right. right? Man.
Crazy. But man, I think that's a great way to wrap this up. I only have one more question for you. And I said at the very beginning, 100th episode, I don't plan anything on the podcast. I lied. I only planned one question at the end. But
I lied.
I lied. I'm sorry. I apologize. To be fair, I've done 100 of these. So I haven't really lied that much. But if you had to recommend one album that everybody should listen to at least once, cannot be your own work, can be any genre of music, what would it be?
Any genre of music, one album, doesn't have to be my own work.
Can't be your own.
Tim's. Have you heard Tim's EP?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Some of the greatest music I've ever heard. But I'm gonna say Lauryn Hill Miseducation album, but Tim's shortly after that, and then Scissor Control. It's crazy. It's not too many rap albums that cut that list for me. If I'm like, bro, this is like, you got to hear some music. Lauryn Hill's Miseducation album for sure. I got to give number one spot.
Well, we actually reviewed. This podcast started as a review podcast. It was me and my two friends. We would just review hip hop albums. I think probably the first 15 episodes are just us reviewing albums. Three white guys from Australia going, right. We love it. Let's talk about it. And when I started interviewing people, one of the albums we reviewed was the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and we did a top 5 of our 5 favorite tracks of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And I keep telling people it is so amazing what she did on that. And I'm so sad it's her only solo project, but like the artistry on it, the lyricism, and my favorite.
One of the greatest songs ever. I was explaining to an artist the other day how like all the great artists just talk. They just speak. Like they never overdo anything. They don't, like, Lauryn Hill was really just speaking her mind, and Andre, Jay-Z, like, Drake got it, where it's like he's just having that conversation. And man, that album is like you're sitting in front of her, just kind of immersed in this world, bruh.
It's also her ability to sing. Like, she has such an amazing voice. And usually I don't like sing-song hooks. Again, like, I'm a traditionalist sometimes, but with her, I was like, this is amazing. Her voice, it just carries. Lost Ones, as soon as that hook hits halfway through the song, I'm like, I'm obsessed with this now. That's all I want to listen to. I look forward to the hook almost more than anything else. And it's just like, she encapsulated what it was to be a woman, what it was to be a mother, what it was to be in the industry in a time where being those things was extremely difficult, and you didn't have the support we have now, where we're like, we want, more diversity. We want women to do well. At that time, it was fucking impossible.
Beat on. Right? The industry was beating her down.
Yeah, I mean, she talks about obviously Wyclef and her relationship with him, with the Fugees, and like, it's just, it's one of these albums. Everyone has to listen to it. I agree. I definitely think that everyone needs to listen to it, and just to understand, what she did for hip hop. She did such a good thing for hip hop. That album is like
hip hop. She's one of the greatest rappers to ever live. Like her. She is Tupac. Like, bro, it's insane the life and career she's had. Like, she's man, it's in her, revolutionary by nature.
And she did it without catering to what the rest of hip hop was doing. She found her own sound, her own lane. And so that's why it was so real and so good, because it was who she was, and it was her being a woman. It wasn't her having to, try and do the gangster shit that was being done at the time. It was really like in her soul.
Have you listened to Shantae?
Nah.
Oh, bruh. You
I'm gonna
gotta
write it
listen
down.
to Shantae. She's on the Good Company page. Type in Shantae Good Company on YouTube, and then go listen to her Protection EP on like streaming. Oh my God. I'm not, words won't even do it justice. Just go check her out.
I will. Who knows? I'll have her on the show. We'll just do a Good Company whole kind of collaboration. Hip Hop Hustle, Good Company. We'll do it all. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure I check it out. Because I mean, I did want to touch on Good Company. They do obviously amazing work supporting artists, and obviously fans can donate as well. All non-for-profit. It's just a really great movement to help support artists and really put out great work. There you go. Well, there you go. 100 episodes. I can't believe it. LaRussell was good enough to come through. Obviously, make sure you check him out. He's everywhere on IG. He's on Spotify. He's on all your streaming platforms. There's so many YouTube videos. As we said, 6 albums last year. You've already dropped an album this year. I'm excited to see what else is coming out from you, my man.
It's man, the floodgates are about to open. The floodgates are about to open, man.
Well, as I said, I appreciate it. I can't wait to see you continue to do well. And I cannot wait to also do this in person, because I feel like, I don't know, there's a good vibe from you. And it was, I don't know, as I said, we kind of figure each other out while we're doing the episode. And yeah, there's only love coming from down under.
Beautiful. I appreciate you, man. I'm super grateful. This was dope.